Tonight, high school teachers and educational workers are turning up the pressure on the province.
They haven't made any formal proposals. What they've been doing is talking in public about the various cuts they want to make to the system.
One union could start a work-to-rule action next week, while another is turning up the pressure as contract talks with the province drag on. Plus,
I just heard a gunshot, like a gunshot. It was a sound of a pop, 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 pop.
A man is dead after a shooting in the middle of the afternoon at a parking lot in Etobicoke. And the takeout industry is booming, but how can we keep single-use plastic out of the trash? One Toronto restaurant owner has an idea. Good evening, I'm Mike Wise. We begin, though, in Scarborough tonight, where police have had a busy night investigating both a fatal pedestrian accident and a separate three-car collision. We'll start at Danforth Avenue and Pharmacy. That's where a pedestrian was hit by a vehicle just before 9 o'clock tonight. Paramedics say they rushed a man in his 60s to hospital. He was in life-threatening condition but has now died. Police have shut down roads in that area while they investigate just what happened. Just about 30 minutes after that, there was a three-car crash near Lawrence Avenue and Scarborough Golf Club Road. Two of the drivers there were taken to hospital, but their injuries are not considered serious. Now, that took place near the same area where a 17-year-old boy was struck and killed by a car last night as he crossed the street. It has people in that area calling tonight for traffic lights to be installed to prevent more deaths.
Unfortunate that somebody had to pass away here yesterday. So realistically, I think they should be putting lights here.
The government should put a one-stop line over here, a stop sign.
The teenager was hit by a southbound Acura while he was crossing Scarborough Golf Club Road near Lawrence. Passerbys tried administering CPR. Paramedics rushed him to hospital where he later died. The driver of the car remained at the scene, and police are asking for any dash cam or security camera video that might help in their investigation. And there are calls tonight for cameras to be put on Toronto's streetcars. The NDP's transit critic says that would help police investigate pedestrian accidents.
Every transit rider has had the frightening experience of exiting a streetcar and nearly being hit by a driver that has failed to obey the road rules.
Jessica Bell made that announcement just steps away from a Bathurst streetcar stop where a woman was hit last week. She's in hospital recovering. Between 2014 and 2016, 26 people were hurt while getting off of the streetcar, and that doesn't include close calls. Mayor Tory is endorsing the idea of cameras, though Bell says she hasn't worked out the specifics of what the enforcement program would look like. And another fatal shooting in Toronto today. This one happening in the middle of the afternoon near the West Mall in Rathburn in Etobicoke. It's normally a busy area, but as Kelda Yoon tells us, police say a lack of calls to 911 is making this a tough crime to investigate.
It was a passerby who spotted the body of the victim lying in the parking lot of this apartment building just after 1 o'clock this afternoon. And it was that person who called police, the only person to do so.
We had no calls for a sound of gunshots in this area. With all these buildings, I'm surprised we didn't get any radio calls in regards to any sound of gunshots.
Many residents say they did hear multiple bangs, but say they either weren't sure they were gunshots or they assumed someone else would make the call.
I just heard a gunshot, like a gunshot. It was a sound of a pop, 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 like 5 times. And then I quickly opened my window and I didn't see anything, so I went back to sleep.
It was sometime between 1 and 1:30. I heard some loud bangs going. I thought it was just a super checking the garbage, like slamming the garbage bins like he usually does. So I didn't bother looking out right away.
Paramedics were unable to save the man's life. Friends and family of the victim have been outside the building here consoling one another since early this afternoon. They declined to speak to us at this time, and police have also yet to reveal the identity of the victim, but other residents here told me that he did live in this building. Irene Henry, who has lived in the building for 6 years, says there's a drug problem here, and it isn't the first time there's been gun violence.
There was a shooting over here on the street. A woman almost lost her life. There's too much going on, and we're only at the end of September. What's going to happen next month?
Police don't have any suspects at the moment. Kelda Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
If you have children in public school, there are a couple of developments tonight you should know about. First, the union representing caretakers and support staff could start a work-to-rule campaign next week. And now the union representing high school teachers is accusing the province of bargaining in bad faith. As Lisa Shing shows us, it's taking the unusual step of making its biggest demands public.
The union calls it an unprecedented move. Typically, we know the broad strokes of what's on the table, for example, salary and benefits, but today OSSTF released specifics of what it wants. For its support staff, it's asking for a baseline minimum number of positions in each school board and a minimum of one designated early childhood educator for junior kindergarten and senior kindergarten, and funding for enhanced special education programming for students with autism and mental health needs, for example. Now, for teachers, it's proposing establishing a baseline ratio of teachers to students based on the last school year and a committee looking at whether e-learning works. Now, today, the union accused the province of bargaining in bad faith and using delay tactics. Here's the union's president on whether making this move could be considered drastic.
If it's drastic, it's in response to a government that's been making public announcements, that's been leveraging cuts against a bargaining table that hasn't even gotten started yet.
For now, there are dates scheduled for talks into the end of October, and the union tells me they haven't yet set a date for a strike vote. Now, this all comes as another union representing educational assistants as well as custodians say they're going to be serving the province with notice of work action tomorrow. Here's what they have to say about that.
You know, this is a government that is chipping away at the services that our folks provide, and it needs to be returned and improved.
Now, last week, CUPE workers voted 93% in favor of a strike, but Laura Walton says that will not happen if negotiations go well. Now, we also reached out to the Minister of Education, who says he's disappointed in CUPE's move, but is committed to reaching a deal with all unions. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
Kevin OLeary's wife is facing charges tonight. She was one of the boaters involved in a Muskoka crash last month that left 2 people dead. A 57-year-old New York man is also facing charges. Farah Morelli has the latest.
It was on a Saturday night last month when these calm waters were disturbed by a late-night crash. 2 boats collided on Lake Joseph in Muskoka.
With the small-knit community, usually everyone knows people involved.
Gary Poltash, a 64-year-old Florida man, was a passenger on one of the boats. He died at the scene. Susanna Brito, 48 years old, a passenger on the same boat, died in hospital. She was from Uxbridge and a mother of 3.
As a result of the ongoing investigation, today we charged Linda OLeary, one of the vessel operators, with a careless operation of a vessel.
Today, confirmation that the driver of one of those boats was the wife of reality TV star Kevin OLeary. Linda OLeary has been charged, and so has the driver of the boat Poltash and Brito were on.
We charge Richard Rue, the other vessel operator, with failing to have navigation lights while underway.
Today, OLeary's lawyer told CBC News Linda OLeary is an experienced and cautious boater.
So on this dark evening, she, on approaching her home, tragically came into contact with an unlit boat, and it was a dark night. Those are the circumstances that exist. The OPP has made a decision, and we'll respond accordingly.
It was a difficult case, I would imagine, for them to investigate because it's not the same as a highway traffic accident.
This criminal lawyer says both drivers have been charged under what's called Canada's Shipping Act and not the criminal code.
It means that there is the potential for jail, in this case 18 months in jail, and it also means that it carries with it very heavy fines. The maximum fine for this is $1 million. Is that what we will see at the end of the day? Highly unlikely.
Farah Morelli, CBC News, Toronto.
And we have confirmed tonight Maple Leaf star Austin Matthews is facing a disorderly conduct charge. It stems from an incident last May in his hometown of Scottsdale, Arizona. A security guard at a condo complex made the complaint, alleging Matthews and a group of males tried to open her car while she sat inside doing paperwork around 2 in the morning. The woman said Matthews appeared to be intoxicated. She got out of her car, confronted him. Matthews reportedly walked away, dropped his pants, and bent over, grabbing his rear end, although it appeared he still had his underwear on. The report says surveillance video shows a male walking towards the complex with his pants around his ankles. Now, the Maple Leafs acknowledge the incident happened, but they're not talking about it. Matthews has not been arrested in relations to the incident. Colette Kennedy's here with the first look at the forecast. Another warm day tomorrow. A bit windy, though.
Yeah, it is going to be a bit windy. Everything seems to come with a price, right? So in order for us to see our temperatures kind of spiking tomorrow, those winds will be coming out of the south to southwest, and they're going to be a bit on the breezy side. And then late day, a little bit of precipitation to go along with it as well. Let's just back up a little bit and take a look at the daytime highs from earlier today. So 21 degrees Toronto and kind of the mid to late afternoon, and then a little more cloud cover built in and the temperature dropped a bit. Our warmer spot 24 degrees, and one of the cooler spots, well, a couple of them, Ottawa and Barrie with that high just in the upper teens there, 17. So it doesn't look bad overnight tonight. We may have some cloud cover to deal with, but that's about it in terms of a few pockets where we were looking for some isolated showers and things really seem to be drying up. But it's this system that as it comes in tomorrow, we get counterclockwise circulation around that area of low pressure. So that's the real push of seeing the flow coming from the south to southwest. So the humidity going up as well tomorrow. And then late day, as the back end of the system approaches, that's when we'll start to see some scattered showers developing. So closer towards the evening hours or late part of the commute and into the evening, then a bit of a break, and then another round will go through. So even into Thursday morning could be a little bit on the chilly side or chillier, and we'll be seeing a little bit of wet weather off and on through the day. Overnight tonight, though, 14 degrees, and then a look at tomorrow afternoon, 26 degrees, feeling closer to 30, Mike.
Can't believe this late in September. Thanks a lot, Colette.
You're welcome.
The City of Toronto wants to have a discussion about what it should do about single-use items like these to-go containers. One restaurant in the city has a solution. It wants customers to buy into a reusable container program. I'm Natalie Danowski, and I'll have that story coming up.
The federal election campaign once again saw talk about climate change today. It's what we're focusing on this week in our series 5 Issues in 5 Weeks. Experts say we're seeing more effects of climate change in the GTA in the form of more intense storms, flooding, and heat waves. As Shannon Martin shows us, some municipalities feel it is so urgent an issue, they're moving ahead with their own local policies and changes.
Long-lost lawnmowers and bicycles pulled from the shores and lake bed around the Toronto Islands, all part of a huge cleanup after repeated record-high water.
2 significant events in 2017-2019 that are breaking 100-year records, all records that have been kept. We're looking at significant weather events, not just in Toronto area, but across the Great Lakes region.
Wet, windy, and wild. More extreme weather across the GTA, now an undeniable reality.
The water had breached over these retaining walls.
In Oakville, parts of the lakefront are still closed off. In 2017, the town was caught by surprise when Lake Ontario reached its highest level ever, causing $3 million in damage. This year was even worse.
So every time something like this occurs, we come back, we build the walls a little higher. I'm hoping that we don't have to build them much higher.
Well, it's incredible to think, though, 2017 was a record and then 2 years later was another one.
It's unheard of. All I know is that I'm dealing with it, and it's happened, and now we have to put a bigger and more robust plan in place.
We're no longer looking to, things might happen in 2050, we're feeling them and people are being impacted right now.
Oakville and all of the municipalities in Halton have now declared a climate emergency, giving local governments the power to bring in new policy and make changes.
So what can people do right now?
Right now, the number one thing is to get educated and informed and get out there and vote. Voting is climate action 100%.
Lisa Kohler with the Halton Environmental Network says in order to make big lasting change, all levels of government are needed. The next 4 years, she says, are critical.
It's make or break time. We need good policies. We need infrastructure policy. We need bylaw policy. We need electric vehicle charging stations. We need to transform our communities. We can do it, but we need every political system in play in Canada working together collaboratively on this issue.
And coming up on October 3rd, all federal ridings in Halton are holding climate change debates. The idea is to give voters a chance to see where their local candidates stand. Shannon Martin, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, in the age of Uber Eats and Foodora, the City of Toronto is looking at how it can better deal with the single-use plastic containers all that food arrives in. Well, today it started public consultations to get some ideas, and our Natalie Nanowski looks at what is already being done to reuse food packaging, including at one Toronto restaurant leading the way.
At Farmer, you can eat in on a plate or take it to go in a reusable container.
We found that a lot of biodegradable containers weren't getting disposed of properly and ended up in landfill, and we just decided to try something a little bit different and create a sustainable, reusable container program.
$4 gets you a durable plastic container. You can return it for a full refund next time you're in, or continue using it to get 50 cents off each meal.
We sold out in like the first week, and then we've been kind of trying to keep up ever since.
A novel move since Canada's takeout and delivery industry is growing. In 2018, sales rose about 50%, and that means there's more takeaway boxes than ever before.
The problem with single-use items, especially to-go containers, is that no one keeps track of exactly how many we go through. But to give you a visual, let's just say I have a drink in the morning, I have a coffee midway through the day, and then I buy my lunch. This is how much garbage I'm producing in one day. Let's say I did that over the course of 5 days. There'd be this much.
So right now we're looking to consult with the public on different options that are available to manage or reduce the use of single-use items within the City of Toronto.
Consultations run until November, and experts say everyone needs to step up their game.
Unfortunately, we're only recycling just over 10% of all the plastics we're actually creating. So, I think business needs to take the lead, but consumers need to reward where business is innovating.
In North Carolina, Green to Go has reinvented takeaway. People buy a membership and grab a reusable container at one of about 30 participating eateries.
When they're ready, they take it back to any return station in town. We pick them up and wash and sanitize centrally, and then we redistribute to the restaurants.
Back at Farmer, Webster hopes his container program catches on. Natalie Nanowski, CBC News, Toronto.
As soon as I seen him, I broke down. He broke down, started crying, and it was something, that's for sure.
Well, it's a reunion that's gone viral. Coming up, we'll tell you how this man was able to track down his best friend hundreds of kilometers away after 4 years apart.
The weather update is brought to you by Train Extreme Conditions Testing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
The Baltimore Orioles looking for some revenge against the Jays tonight after being swept last week and losing late last night after 15 innings. Not a great start for sending Trey Mancini hammers this one to right field. It looks like Derek Fisher makes the catch, but the ball pops out of his glove. Now, next batter up would hit a double. That puts Baltimore up 2-0, and they would just keep up with the hits. Eventually, going on to beat Toronto 11-4. Colette Kennedy's back with her extended look at the forecast, and this last week of September is feeling like I wish the first couple weeks of September felt.
Yeah, we're really getting treated to some fine weather here. I mean, depends what you're looking for, but we get to have the treat of a warm day tomorrow. The thing about it is it does come with a little bit of a price tag on it. So the temperature rises, sure, but it is going to be blustery throughout the day. Those winds driving around 40, 50, and some of the gusts even stronger than that. And then late day, we'll also see some showers developing as this is the system that's going to move through rather rapidly. So on the warm side during the day, that's when we get things pushing up, and then the backside, some wet conditions, and then cooler air moves in for Thursday. A quick look at our almanac and just showing you that the average height this time of year, still, we're looking at just over 19 degrees, and a low should be closer to 8. We're nowhere near that overnight tonight. We are looking at a mild night ahead of us. Now, a bit of that cloud cover through the overnight period into tomorrow morning, a little bit further towards the east of the city for the most part. As those winds start to pick up, it gets a little bit blustier, first from the south, then the southwest, but still into the afternoon hours, it's going to feel a little humid. But we're still looking like we're going to be dry into cottage country, somewhat different story here. But as we go into the late afternoon and evening, that's when we'll see some scattered showers pushing through. We get a bit of a break, and then the next part of this system is going to ride through, and that means into Thursday morning. The early part of the day, there could be some wet weather, and then kind of a break again, and then in some of that instability on the backside, again, we could see some scattered showers breaking out into Thursday afternoon. So I hope you get my point that it's kind of off and on and here and there in terms of the nature of the wet weather that we'll see over the next couple of days. I do want you to see those winds and how they'll be picking up. See that southerly flow coming through? This is tomorrow morning. Those gusts, 50 and at times over 50 kilometers an hour back towards southwestern Ontario. You'll be experiencing that certainly as well. But they'll start to ease up, certainly, as we get late day Wednesday into Thursday. Overnight tonight for Windsor, 14 degrees for your overnight low, and then tomorrow that scattered shower activity, although it does seem to pull to the north, but the risk is there. 26 feeling 30, and overnight tonight, similar conditions really around the GTA, and similar conditions for the highs tomorrow as well. And just look for... take the umbrella, you'll need it later on, okay? And then the cool down Thursday, so 20, Friday 21, and kind of off and on we get these bits of seeing some showers coming back into our forecast, but just not all the time a steady rain, Mike.
So remember the umbrella for tomorrow.
You got it, that's right.
Thank you, Colette.
You're welcome.
Before we go, we want to show you a video that's making the rounds online. This is Mike Plass from Thunder Bay reuniting with his dog Jack after 4 years apart. Now, Plass says that he feared the worst after his dog disappeared and never came back. But last week, he says he got the greatest phone call of his life. Someone spotted Jack walking along a highway in Winnipeg and took him to the local animal shelter. From there, the staff were able to retrieve Plass's phone number off of Jack's microchip, and he got the call. And Plass drove 600 kilometers from Thunder Bay to Winnipeg to pick up his long-lost friend.
He's definitely my brother. He's my best friend. I knew he was going to remember me. And it was nice to see he was crying too, and so he was really happy, and I was happy to see that. I knew he was going to remember me.
Over 1.5 million people have watched the reunion video online since he posted it to Facebook on Saturday. Nice, happy ending for the newscast. Before we go, tomorrow morning on CBC Radio, Radiohead's Tom York stops by Q for the first time ever, and he's going to be talking about his new album, his career, and about coming back to Toronto after that controversial stage collapse at a Radiohead concert 7 years ago. You can hear that tomorrow at 10 on CBC Radio 1. I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Good night.